Coming up, FAA modernization takes center stage on Capitol Hill. Find out what your association told the congressional decision makers. New co-sponsors for third-class medical reform. Taking flight at 102. A conversation with CNN's Miles O'Brien and the Gippers jet. We go inside SAM 27,000, the last 707 to serve as Air Force One. AOPA Live this week begins in just a moment.
From your first skyward glance, the dream of flight compelled you. And from your first glimpse of a Cirrus, you realized that dream had a name. Cirrus Aircraft. Go where you've never been before.
The feds say you have to be ready by 2020, but will the FAA be ready to use the equipment they say you have to buy?
Well, let me just take the January 2020 mandate.
Right.
Realizing everything that needs to be done there in terms of automation platform, renewal and modernization, ERAM supposed to be done in 2015, right? STARS supposed to be done several years after that. Datacom supposed to be coming on in 2019. The need to develop procedures and training for all the controllers, the need for for enough of the fleet that's going to use the system to equip so that we can have end-to-end testing. Without the end-to-end testing, we can't be assured that it's going to operate as intended.
Right.
And all of that by 2020,
Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest.
I'm less than 5.
That's right. The chief FAA watchdog said this week that he thinks there's a less than 50% chance that the agency will get everything done by 2020 to make NextGen and ADS-B work the way it's supposed to. Hello everyone, I'm Tom Haynes. Thanks for watching AOPA Live this week. An important hearing this week on Capitol Hill, and AOPA's Mark Baker was there to speak for general aviation. And now here to tell us about why this matters to general aviation pilots, our own advocacy expert, Melissa Rudinger. Melissa.
Hi, Tom. So this was a hearing before the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and the subject was FAA reauthorization. You'll be hearing a lot about that in the next few months, and it was AOPA's opportunity to make sure that Congress knows about our most important issues.
Mark Baker expressed at the T&I hearing, the Transportation Infrastructure hearing today, about concerns that general aviation has with respect to third-class medical, certification and regulatory, the need for certification and regulatory reform, and the issues surrounding the ADS-B 2020 mandate and the cost versus the benefits associated with that.
And Mark told the committee that the costs for ADS-B out are too high for many operators and the benefits too low.
So for the ADS-B out, which gives the pilot in the cockpit no information, doesn't give you any traffic or weather information, it just pings out, is about $5,000 to $6,000 is what we hear installed today on an aircraft that many are worth less than $25,000.
So it's over 20% of the cost of the aircraft
is represented. Advantage.
So is it reasonable to expect some of these are going to be parked in hangars or in boneyards, and pilots who are pilots now aren't going to be flying because of this?
That's the risk.
So there needs to be a lower cost solution. What's your organization doing to promote this lower cost solution?
Well, we're currently working with GAMA, General Aviation Manufacturers Association, and the FAA to say, is there some other type of portable device that could be recognized? You know, remember the iPad wasn't even invented when ADS-B came out. Is there some type of portable, lower cost device that could be like our cell phone that is pinging out at an adequate level for these little general aviation airplanes? Remember, the ADS-B sophistication is called 9 feet of accuracy. Do we really need that for a little, two-passenger airplane?
Mark also pointed out that if we made the certification regulations simpler, we could upgrade existing aircraft, making them safer without spending a lot of money.
The idea that you've got an aircraft that was 40 years old, call it, it's the equivalent of having your car with an AM radio, but the certification process to put an FM radio in there could take years, millions and millions of dollars. And the industry is saying it costs too much, takes too long, not willing to put those upgraded products in these aircraft. Situational awareness in an aircraft is still the #1 issue that leads to accidents. Today, the iPad has added more value to situational awareness than almost anything else. But if you were to try and install that type of equipment on an aircraft today, it would take millions and millions of dollars to try and do that for the industry and take years to get it done. So there should be an expedited process, because we have experimental aircraft today that have great autopilots, great gas gauges, great, situational awareness, and it's done at a very low cost. So the systems have moved very quickly, and the FAA has not moved in that process yet. For building a new aircraft today, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars, you can get it done.
And the FAA has gone well past the congressional deadline for rewriting the certification regulations. And finally, Mark made another push for medical certificate reform.
And Melissa, that's the change that would allow many general aviation pilots to fly general aviation aircraft without a third-class medical certificate. And we also have legislation pending on that, right?
That's right, Tom, and I have some good news on that front. We have some new co-sponsors on the GA Pilot Protection Act. These new names add to the strong bipartisan support for medical reform. There are now 159 co-sponsors in the House and 20 in the Senate. AOPA's legislative affairs team continues to work hard on Capitol Hill, and we're not going to stop pressing on this issue. There is also important news this week in the effort to integrate unmanned aerial systems into the National Airspace System. You may remember this video. The FAA fined the pilot of this drone $10,000. They said he had operated it in a reckless manner on the University of Virginia campus. He appealed, claiming his UAS was no more than a toy. Back in March, an NTSB administrative law judge agreed with him. The FAA appealed to the NTSB, who now says the definition of an aircraft is very broad. This week, the ruling says that the FAA can enforce rules about any unmanned aerial system. And there's a big step forward for safety in the Sooner State. Oklahoma's governor just signed a law requiring the marking and lighting of meteorological evaluation towers, or METs. METs are used for things like research for wind farms and have been a real problem where the wind comes sweeping down the plains. The law requires that towers more than 50 feet tall carry markings including paint, alternating bands of orange and white on the tower itself. There also have to be marker balls for the guy wires that support it. The state is required to establish and maintain a database of tower locations. This will make things a lot safer for low-level operators like ag pilots and helicopter crews.
All right, thanks, Melissa. Lots going on this week. And another big announcement for diesel power. We talked some about this last week. Continental says its CD100 series of diesel engines will be available for retrofit to aircraft in China. Chinese avgas is in short supply, so Jet A is the way to go there. The CD100 provides new options to the Chinese flight training boom. The retrofit will be available for the Cessna 172, the Piper PA-28, and the Diamond DA-40. Well, and the inventors of the Stallhorn are being honored for their significant work to make flying safer. Randall and Leonard Green of Safe Flight received the Joseph T. Nall Award. The award is given to innovators who make transportation and flying safer. The Safe Flight Instrument Company created several key safety technologies that we take for granted today. Their products are in more than 2/3 of the world's aircraft. What a better way to say happy birthday than to take someone for a ride in a Citabria, especially if your passenger is turning 102. AOPA Live's Paul Harrop has the story.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
We're out of here.
Ready.
Let's go.
Gene Leake is as ready as he ever was. He's been an aviation enthusiast since powered flight was in its infancy. And this lifelong Indiana farm boy is celebrating a long life over the farms of Indiana.
I'm just enjoying the scenery.
I'm glad you are.
Gene's flown in just about everything over the years, but today he's in a Citabria, flown by his friend Martin Rice, plowing the skies over the land he's worked longer than we can imagine, making a stop on a grass strip.
How long has it been since you've landed on a grass strip, Gene?
Oh, long while.
The tour takes Gene over places he's seen change over the years, but one constant remains the joy he gets out of taking to the Hoosier skies.
If it's up to me, we're going to do this every year on your birthday.
Yeah. I'll go along with that.
All right.
And Gene, here's to many more birthday flights. Paul Harrop, AOPA Live.
You can read much more about Gene's birthday flight on AOPA.org. Well, coming up after the break, a chat with Miles O'Brien and inside President Ronald Reagan's Air Force One. Welcome back. You're watching AOPA Live this week. Latest numbers from the avionics market are out. The Aircraft Electronics Association is sharing their third quarter avionics market report. There are more than $614 million worth of avionics sold in the third quarter. It's about 5% less than the same quarter last year, though. First part of the year was strong, so the year overall should look really good, according to AEA. Need some more good news? One analyst has sights set even higher for general aviation next year. Brian Foley says he crunched the numbers and 2015 looks good for the industry. Foley says used jet inventories are the lowest they've been since 2008. Biz jet activity is up, and he says that points to next year being a pivot point. Let's hope he's right and that it quickly trickles down to the rest of general aviation. It's been a tough year for aviation expert Miles O'Brien. The CNN and PBS personality had his left arm amputated in an emergency surgery after an injury earlier this year. Until then, he owned a Cirrus. He stopped by AOPA this week, and we talked about the road back to the left seat and overcoming challenges. So Miles, you've been a longtime aircraft owner and pilot and used your airplane a lot for personal and business use as you did video work around the country, and then all of a sudden, with the accident that led to the surgery and the loss of your arm, all that was taken away from you. What was that like, and what's your aviation experience these days?
Well, I can tell you it was one of the first things I thought of when it happened to me. What am I going to do about flying? You know, this is a big part of my life. It's a passion I have, and you know, we pilots understand this. I don't have to explain how important it is to us all to stay back in the air. Yeah, as soon as I practically could, I started thinking about, you know, what I could do, what I should do. For other reasons, I had to sell my Cirrus, and I wasn't sure that was the perfect plane anyway. It's, you know, it's a left seat, left side stick. Probably have to sit in the right seat. Could I reach the breakers, the alternate air, all the things that are under the left seat? Lots of questions about that. It's now the question is, as I work my way back toward aviation, what's the plane going to be in my future?
Good for you. You've been so positive through this. It's been a real inspiration for all of us. How is it that you maintain that sort of positive nature, and what advice do you have for pilots who maybe are facing their own challenges on a day-to-day basis and to deal with situations?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose some of it, you know, is genetic. Some of it is just, you know, a decision we all make in life when you're faced with adversity. I really feel as if it's a very binary thing. You either feel sorry for yourself and start going down a spiral,
right.
You know, the classic death spiral, right? Or you make a conscious decision to be grateful you're alive, be thankful for what you have, and deal with this challenge.
Inspiring. You can see my full interview with Miles right now on AOPAlive.org. You may remember the incredible collection of aircraft owned by Texas rancher Connie Edwards. We told you about his fleet of rare warbirds and their sale back in August. We now know what the future holds for his 6 Messerschmitt Me-109s used in the movie The Battle of Britain. A company in Switzerland has purchased them. They plan on restoring them to factory new condition, keeping 2 and selling the others. There's a bit of a showdown happening right here at AOPA headquarters. It's all to serve the future of general aviation. AOPA Foundation Executive Director Jim Minow and AOPA President and CEO Mark Baker are duking it out to see who can sign up more hat-in-the-ring members. They made this video to tell you about the challenge.
Well, Jim, welcome to AOPA.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Mark. I'm thrilled to be here. My name is Jim Minow. I'm the new Executive Director of the AOPA Foundation, and we are launching our 2nd annual Hat in the Ring Challenge for renewing and first-time members of Hat in the Ring. Mark and I are developing a competition. I'm the significant underdog here, but about to bring in a ringer who's really going to help on my team make this 50 new member challenge.
Oh, well, welcome Bruce Landsberg to the set. Thank you, Bruce.
Well,
are you going to help out Jim or me this year?
That's a rhetorical question, sir. I will be helping Jim because you and I were in a very good competition last year, and as I recall, you very graciously capitulated towards the end of the year.
Well, graciously might be overstated, but nonetheless, I did agree that you were able to manipulate the numbers in your favor, but at the end of the day, AOPA won. Good contest.
It'll be a great contest. We're looking, as I mentioned earlier, we're looking to attract 50 new or renewing members before December 31st. I have a great amount of confidence we're going to get there. Thank you for your support as we move forward into 2015, which is going to be one of our best years ever.
And you are going to be one of our first new members, and I'm going to be renewing my commitment for the 22nd consecutive year. We hope you'll join us in preserving our freedom to fly.
Good luck, gentlemen.
Right. Great. Thank you.
Better man will win.
Or men.
Absolutely.
Those three can get into a lot of trouble if left alone together. The Hat in the Ring Society is a society of leaders in general aviation, people who have stepped up to say, I want to ensure the freedom to fly is protected. I'm a member, and I hope you'll consider joining me. Go to aopafoundation.org/hatinthering for more information. It's a really worthwhile program. It's a symbol of American power from an era that many hold dear. From the 1970s and into the early 2000s, a Boeing 707, SAM 27000, served our nation in a very visible way as Air Force One. And no president used this particular airframe more than Ronald Reagan. Barry Schiff and photographer Mike Pfizer traveled to the Reagan National Library in Simi Valley, California. They brought back this look inside the Gipper's jet.
We're at the Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California, which means, of course, that the airplane behind me is one of the best-known business jets in the world. It's a Boeing 707 used as Air Force One by a number of presidents, but more specifically by Ronald Reagan.
You walk down a long hallway to get from the main part of the Reagan Presidential Library to the Air Force One Pavilion. But once there, you'll discover one of the most pristine, most beautiful airplanes you'll ever see on display.
The pavilion in which Air Force One is located is truly a magnificent structure, an architectural masterpiece.
Behind Air Force One is a gorgeous mural showing every airplane that has ever been used by a sitting American president. And there's quite a few of them.
Technically, the Air Force One is a Boeing 707-320B, and it's powered by 4 Pratt & Whitney turbofan engines, each delivering 18,000 pounds of thrust. It's really hard to imagine the historical figures that walked on this airplane during the years it served as Air Force One. But from a pilot's perspective, I think I'm more interested in turning left once we walk inside than turning right.
The cockpit is almost identical to that of the Boeing 707-320B, used by so many of the world's airlines. It had a 3-man crew that included a flight engineer. The presidential flight crews received their initial and recurrent training at the TWA Training Center in Kansas City, Missouri. President Reagan's airborne office is just the way it was on June 12, 1987, when he flew to West Berlin and put the finishing touches on a speech that included those historic words.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
A library docent says that it is not unusual for visitors passing through the aircraft to shed a tear as they pause where Ronald Reagan once sat. It has something to do with what once was, I was told. President Reagan enjoyed playing practical jokes on members of his cabinet and staff by being photographed standing over them while they were snoozing. He would sign copies of these photographs and then send them to his victims.
The official name of this airplane is really a VC-137C. That's the official designation. Boeing made 2 of them. SAM 27000, that's this one, and SAM 26000, which is located at the Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. Air Force One is an iconic symbol of America's freedom and democracy. Interestingly, this particular Air Force One made its last flight on September 8, 2001, only 3 days before our democracy and freedom were threatened like at no other time in the past. Barry Schiff, AOPA Live.
Thanks, Barry and Mike. You can read more about the airplane in the December issue of AOPA Pilot Magazine. That's all for this edition. Join us back here next week for Turkey Day. I'm Tom Haynes. Many thanks to those of you who are joining us through the AOPA Live This Week newsletter. It's a great way to get a heads up on what's in the show each week. If you're not getting it, you can sign up at aopalive.org. Just click on the gold banner below the video box. See you next week.